The first day of my new job loomed ahead like a hulking beast. Spending almost a decade out of the workforce had dinged my confidence something awful, especially after the many questions I'd faced in interviews asking to explain the gap in my resume. Parenting my two sons had been the hardest and most rewarding thing I'd ever done, but the people on the other side of the conference table never seemed to appreciate the work it had taken. Young men wearing too much cologne sprayed over their ill-fitting suits hummed when I explained the gap in my work history, and I bit my tongue again and again to keep myself from demanding to know how they'd gotten here and if it was on the backs of their own mothers' sacrifices. But I was in a gorgeous new town, and stable employment shimmered in front of me like a mirage. I'd spent 22 hours putting together the portfolio of design concepts that had landed me the job. I was the new interior designer for a refurbished ski lodge, stepping in to fill the shoes of the design firm who had walked off the job at the 11th hour. I couldn't quite believe that it would be my new reality, especially after a divorce and a drawn-out custody battle. Maybe, just maybe, life was about to get easier. Not likely. "Mom!" My youngest, Alec, called from the back seat. "Nate kicked me." "Nate, don't kick your brother." "Alec kicked me first." "Alec, don't kick your brother," I repeated, squinting at the street names while my GPS yelled at me to make a U-turn, then changed its mind and rerouted me straight, then glitched out and flicked between the two options. A tree branch, trembling with orange and red leaves, obscured the nearest street sign, and I had to inch forward far enough that a car coming down the cross street honked at me. "Are we going to be late for school again?" Nate asked. "No," I replied, turning off the GPS and deciding to trust my rusty old brain to get me to their school. A construction detour had appeared overnight, and I wasn't familiar enough with the town of Lover's Peak, Colorado, to know exactly where I was. But just up ahead there was a familiar corner store, and I knew that the next street was the street the school was on. Hiding my relief, I made the turns, then slid into the school drop-off line. Then it was the daily familiar chaos of getting my boys' things out of the car, putting their backpacks on their backs, and kissing the tops of their heads before they wriggled out of my grasp and ran toward the school. Forcing a smile as I waved at a familiar mom, I got back behind the wheel of my car and blew out a breath. The boys were adapting to the move better than I was. It was the end of September, and they were entering their 4th week at Lover's Peak Elementary. Alec was in 1st grade, and Nate was in 3rd. They adored their teachers and already had invitations to 3 classmates' birthday parties. I, on the other hand, gripped the steering wheel with clammy hands as I thought of the day that stretched ahead of me. First day at the new job after nearly a decade of child-rearing and homemaking. Well, I tried to make a home in those years. Apparently, my ex hadn't gotten the memo. 9 years later, I was picking up the scraps of my life and my career while my ex, Jacob, thrived at the peak of his. Shaking off my bitterness, I drove across town toward the project office where I'd be working. The building was all glass and steel, standing 3 stories high at the edge of the small town that was our new home. I gripped my steering wheel and peered out the windshield, noting the dark windows and the ones already lit from within. Someone was at work already. All I had to do was take my key out of the ignition, get out of my car, and once again become a productive member of society.